What's up, y'all? This is Down South 77. I'd like to welcome you to 3 Star Draw. I'd really like to be welcoming you back to 3 Star Draw if you've been here before. So, this is an adult themed channel where we talk about toys, primarily G.I. Joe Classified, because that's what I'm into, and hopefully you are too. If not, maybe we can get you into it. So, today's video is going to be a little different than what I've done so far. It's not an unboxing, it's not a review. This is really the video I should have made first, but I kind of got ahead of myself because I was eager to do an unboxing and a review, so I kind of jumped the shark there with that. So this video is going to be a little bit about the channel and how I arrived at the channel, and a little bit about me and my affinity for the G.I. Joe brand and how I got into classified. So first, the channel. I call it 3 Star Drawl. Merriam-Webster defines drawl as a slow way of speaking with pronounced vowel sounds. That sounds about right. So that's why I picked it. The 3 Star, I don't do stars for reviews. The 3 Star is for my state, Tennessee. We have 3 regions. We have Western, Middle, and Eastern, and they kind of go like that from west to east. The state goes up to Appalachia. So I'm in the middle, and I picked that because everything down here is is TriStar. It's either TriStar, Mid South, or Mid State, and I wanted to keep something that was Tennessee themed, but not the same as what every other business in a directory down here is. So I just went with 3 Star and draw. So sounded good to me. We'll see how it works out. So on the channel, I'm going to be talking about mostly G.I. Joe Classified. I'm going to do opinions. I'm going to do commentaries. I am a glass half empty kind of guy. If you've watched anything I have done so far, or you know me, you will know that. It's going to take, it takes a lot for me to admit there's anything in the glass and get the glass filled up. But I will sometimes. So I'll be doing unboxings, reviews, and I am going to do something I call character limelight. A lot of people do something similar and they call it spotlight, but I think spotlight's overused. And I like limelight because I like limes and I like the color green. So I'm going to use limelight, damn it. And I'll call it something like character in the limelight, or limelight own, probably. I like limelight own. I'm going to go with that. So limelights were originally developed in the 1820s to illuminate theaters for plays and musicals and whatever they did in back in the 1820s. See, I'm also very educational. Keep that in mind. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. So, most people say spotlight. I'm going to use limelight because I like it. I got a little cheat sheet over here I got to glance at every once in a while because, you know, I'm getting old and I can't remember shit. So I got to write it down or put it in my phone, and half the time I can't find where I put it in the phone. So stick the pen and paper. So that's a little bit about the channel and what I'd like to do with it. I'm probably not other, I'm just a collector. I'm just a guy that likes to talk about, my passion of what I'm into, which is G.I. Joe. So here we are. So I was born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s. The greatest time ever to play with toys or collect toys. We didn't collect them back then. Somebody bought them for us. I mean, maybe we saved allowance. I saved allowance. 3 figures at Toys R Us was $10.80 back then. Yeah. So I grew up in the best time ever for toys. Every every decade, has had their standouts, and they've had good toys. but we lived in the golden age. I mean, if you grew up in the 80s and you were watching cartoons and you were playing with toys, girls' toys or boys' toys, I mean, you think about it, because we didn't just have G.I. Joe. We had Transformers, He Man, real Ghostbusters. We had She-Ra, Rainbow Bright, Care Bears, Cabbage Patch Kids, all of the iconic stuff. I mean, Barbie was still going strong. Wasn't developed in the 80s, but it still had plenty of steam in the 80s. And of course, the original G.I. Joes that were developed back in the 60s, and there were still a few of them around. But the 80s was the best, man. I mean, if you weren't there, you really missed out. All this stuff that they show on TV about the 80s, like Stranger Things, it was not that cool. And it was not that clean and it was not that pristine. But they do get the fashion right and they get the music right. But anyway, I kind of ramble a little bit. Uh, so the 80s were great. And in the 80s, I have I have a lot of cousins. And I have three cousins in particular. Two older cousins on my father's side are who introduced me to G.I. Joe. They are a little bit older than I am, and I went over their house, and they were cousins that I did not see that often. So we had a lot of catching up when I went over there when I was a kid, and they had GI Joes, and I remember when I went over there, like I said, they were a little older, so they had all of those first guys. They had Stalker, they had Snake Eyes, and it was really probably around somewhere between the first wave and when like Destro come out and Snow Job and that 1.5 or Wave 2, whatever they called it. That was when I really fell in love with it. And all those guys were still on the peg. So I was able to, when I started getting Joes for Christmas or birthdays or whatever, they started filling in, and I just fell in love with the whole concept. And I had all of the toys that everybody else had. I played with the other toys. I had He Man. I had Star Wars. I left He Man out earlier somehow. Um, I had those, and I liked them. I loved playing with them. But when Joe come along, I loved GI Joe. I really liked the other stuff, but I loved GI Joe, and that was pretty much it. Most of my birthdays and Christmases and any events where you got a gift or whatever, I asked for, and I got GI Joe if I got stuff. That was it for me. So the other cousin I mentioned was a cousin on my mom's side, and we're still tight to this day. But I saw him all the time. He was my Joe bro growing up, and he was kind of similar situation. Like he got Joes for those days, those occasions. He got Joes too, and we hung out all the time and did sleepovers and all that, and we played with GI Joes. We even played Big Joes, where we were the Joes. It was role playing. We didn't know it was role playing. We didn't know what that was called back then, but that's what we were doing. I live out kind of in the country, and I had a creek, and I grew up on 5 acres with a creek through it and woods. But we had a hell of a time playing Big Joes. But we'd take our Joes down to the creek and take them outside. I mean, we had a hell of a time. It was the best time to be alive and be a kid. And if you had any kind of similar situation, I mean, even if you lived in the city and the neighborhoods or whatever, that wasn't it great? I mean, if I could go back to 1985, I think that's where I would go and just stay there. It was awesome. But we grow up, life happens. Um, but Real American Hero for me was just it was the bee's knees. It just don't get any better. Till maybe now, arguably. So there's no doubt for me and for a lot of us that the Real American Hero line laid the groundwork for some of the best times of our childhood. It really did for me. I get pretty passionate when I talk about it because I think GI Joe got me through childhood. I didn't have a lot of close friends. I mean, close like live near me. Like I said, I lived out, and those were my those were my friends. You know, those were what I hung out with a lot. So they hold a special place for me, and they always will. It was the best toy line ever. So grew up, and life happened, and just skipped through everything. I've collected stuff off and on. When Star Wars come back out back in was it '95, Power of the Force. I had a lot of that. I started collecting that stuff. I was working. I had a job and still lived at home, so I had no bills. Um, and I got heavy into that until I couldn't keep up with it anymore, and until they started making 10 versions of each figure, each character, and three of those had variants. And I just kind of got overloaded and overwhelmed with it. And then they brought Joe back out in the G.I. Joe vs. Cobra, and I kind of was giving up on Star Wars, and that was probably around the time Phantom Menace come out, and we all know how that went. And I had slacked off a lot. But then when they come out with Joe vs. Cobra, and of course the Devil's Due comic come out, and I loved it. Like I love that Devil's Due comic. And that got me back into Joe. So I started reading that, and I started buying the Joe vs. Cobra, and then the Valor vs. Venom, and all of that stuff. And somewhere along the way, like I hit a point where I got in a spot and I sold that, and I kind of lost track of it. And I collected stuff. I've always collected stuff here or there, random things, but I really was not super active in collecting toys or a line or anything for quite a while. Um, back in the mid 2000s, it just early to mid 2000s, I guess, and up. Life just, how life goes, money and living situations and things like that. So I got kind of out of collecting for a long time. I did not collect the Pursuit of Cobra line. I didn't even know about the Pursuit of Cobra line, I don't think. Now, when I went in Walmart or wherever, I still perused the toy aisles and looked at stuff, but I don't even, if I saw the Pursuit of Cobra line, I was like, man, cool GI Joes, but they're not my GI Joes. Like, maybe I saw characters that they come out with for that line, and I don't know, they look good. If I saw them and paid any attention to them, they just went in and out. Like it just wasn't where I could collect, and I didn't follow it. I did have some of the Toys R Us exclusive stuff I would pick up here and there, but I didn't have much of it because to me, anything after '94 just kind of felt like it was rehashing everything. Which sounds weird because you look at how many repaints and reuses they did during the main line, but all of that stuff just seemed like at the age I was, it seemed like that stuff was beating a dead horse, I guess. But I wasn't into it. No, either way. So skip forward to cut out a lot, but you don't care about that. Skip forward to recent times. And when Classified come out, I really wasn't keeping up with toys much at all. I might buy one thing here or there, or somebody would see something they know I'd like and they'd get it for me, and I'd display it, and then I'd move the display around. And, I always try to keep stuff out, but you've only got so much room and space, and then, you've got other life events to where you can't. But I wasn't keeping up with toys, and so Classified comes out And my my cousin, my number one dude, he tells me about them because he sees them, and he picks a couple of them up, and he's like, "Hey man, have you seen these new Joes?" I was like, "What new Joes?" He's like, "Oh man, they're called classified." It's like you need to check them out. It's like I picked up, I don't remember who it was. He said he picked up, but I was like, "Oh yeah, man," and he's like, "They're 6 inch." They're what? 6 inch Joes? He's like, "Yeah, dude, you ought to check out the detail, man. They're dope." I was like, yeah, I'm not interested in 6 inch Joes, dude." And he kept telling me, and I would go in Walmart probably. I'm not a huge Target guy. I'd go in probably Walmart, and I would see them hanging there. And I remember for a long time, I almost bought Cobra Commander, but it wasn't right. It looked great, but it wasn't the Cobra Commander I wanted. If they'd made it look like the original Cobra Commander, the faceplate, yeah, I'd have bought that mug. But he looked like him, but not enough for me to drop $25 on him. That was the other thing. My cousin told me there were 6 inch figures, and he told me that they were $25, and I'm like, damn, dude, that's the water bill. At that, close. Like I can't be spending $25 on action figures. Like they used to be $2.99. He's like, well, yeah, that was 35 years ago. Yeah, well. So I would walk by and I'd see the ones that were out. I don't think I ever even knew about the Target Cobra Island ones. I mean, he showed me he had Major Blood, and I'd gone over there and he was showing me Major Blood, and I could not believe how good it looked. But I didn't really shop at Target that much. I just don't go in there, so I don't really remember seeing those guys when they were out there. I saw whatever Walmart had when I would go look, and I remember seeing Gung Ho. I was like, that ain't Gung Ho. That's like Gung Ho's brother. Like, that shit ain't Gung Ho. I mean, it's like they took Gung Ho and somebody was like, okay, that's what he looks like. All right, I'm going to do my own thing. And there he is. Close enough, but no cigar for me. So I didn't buy them. I thought $25 was way overpriced, and I wasn't really in a position where I could pick them up. And there's one other thing. I knew if I did, I would be right back to Power of the Force. I'd be trying to buy everything. I'd be looking at pallets when stock comes out. I'd be calling. I'd be going in the middle of the night because that's when, well, maybe not anymore, but back then, all the Walmarts near me were 24 hours, and that was when they stocked. I actually worked at Walmart for several years. Um, back in the day. And so I would go up there when they were putting out stock, and they'd unload the trucks, and all the collectors showed up at 1 o'clock in the morning, especially the Hot Wheels guys. Man, I'm glad I never got real big into Hot Wheels. Just even thinking about Hot Wheels and some of those guys gives me mental fatigue. But I knew if I started buying classified, I would be right back to that. So I held off. And they'd made some of my favorite characters, but they hadn't made all of my favorite characters, and not enough of them for me to break down and do it. So my cousin wasn't picking all of them up. He was picking up several, but he'd be like, "Man, I got this figure. I got whoever." He's like, "Man, you need to get these things. They're badass." Man, I know, but damn, $25. That just I can't do it, man. So he kept telling me and kept telling me and kept telling me. And I actually I had gotten him a couple of classifieds I knew he didn't have for his birthday or whatever, like that first year. So in 2022, he calls me up and starts telling me about the hiss and how awesome it is. I didn't understand what HasLab was. Like I was not really into collecting anything at the time, as I said, so I didn't know what the hell a HasLab was, and he was trying to explain it to me, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's how much? And he told me, I'm like, $300 damn dollars. He's like, yeah, man, but it fits these 6-inch figures. It's like it's gonna be huge. Like $300 damn dollars? No. Oh no. Not for me. Not when I ain't even buying these guys. So, needless to say, I did not back the hiss. Right? So I have a deal, I hope, for a hiss for a reasonable price. I hope that deal goes through. If not, I'm gonna get bent over for it. But I guess everybody gets bent over at some point. So my cousin backed the hiss and was constantly, steadily telling me how badass it was. And I looked at the pictures, and it was. I mean, it was one of the probably the coolest toy I'd ever seen. I still didn't understand HasLabs. So I told my cousin, I was like, look, man, I said, I like these. It's not that I don't like them. I can't commit that because when I get into something, I am all in to something. I got in, but I didn't get in yet. I had told him back around Christmas, I think I got him Sergeant Slaughter because he didn't have Sergeant Slaughter yet. And I told him this was Christmas of 22. I'd already missed the hiss, and he already has one coming. I was like, look, man, look, here's a list. I said, if they ever make these figures, I will start buying these guys. They'd already made a lot of my characters that I really liked, but I just wasn't ready to pull that trigger yet. So I told him, I said, look, if they ever make these like 5 characters, I will at least get them and probably start picking them up. So come to this year in March 8th, I believe, I get a text from my cousin. The number one figure that I wanted in classified that I said I would start buying them if they made them, there were 5. The number one was Scrap Iron. Scrap Iron is my favorite character, aside from Cobra Commander. If somebody asks me who my favorite Cobra is, by default, it's Cobra Commander. My brain automatically goes to the question reformats, and it's who is your favorite Cobra besides Cobra Commander? Because Cobra Commander can't be topped. Nothing can top Cobra Commander. I don't care who you are. If you think so, get the fuck out of here. No, I'm just kidding. I want you to stay. So, Scrap Iron. So he sends me just a screenshot of, I guess, Pulse. He was like, dude, Scrap Iron's coming. And that picture of him with that drone, man. And there were, I'm not going to say who the other ones were because I'm going to do a video on it when I get them all here. And he sent me that picture, and I was like, oh my God. So I got on Pulse, went to Hasbro, and he sent me the link. I was like, well, I guess here we go. And it was sold out. Him and Torpedo were the first 2 that sold out that day. I was like, oh my God, they finally made him and he sold out. And I didn't think, I just sat there for an hour and all upset. And I was like, maybe Amazon's got him. And Amazon had him. So I ordered him like that. And I got a couple other ones from Pulse that I'll go into at another in another video. But I went ahead and pre-ordered some and ordered some at Pulse. and I ordered scrap iron from Amazon. And that night, I got to looking at the figures on Amazon, and I ordered the bat. The bat was one of the ones that I had gotten my cousin for, I think, his birthday, because he hadn't seen him yet. And he's a likes to find them in the wild kind of person. So I just went ahead and ordered him the bat, and then I saw it, and I couldn't believe it. So that night I'd ordered scrap iron, and I had ordered a couple others, but I ordered the bat from Amazon and had him with, in a day or two. And that was my first classified figure, was the bat. And bat was always one of my favorite figures in the Arai line. So the bat was my first classified in March of this year. Remember when I said when I go in, I go all in? I went all in. So that weekend, I went and got some other ones, and I had somebody with me that has helped me do all of this and got me a couple of them. And we went to Target. So I got Tiger Force and Python Officer, and I just couldn't believe, like, that Python officer, like all the detail, and like his weapons. He's got the AK-47 with the sight and the laser that clips on the side. I just couldn't believe it. So that's how it started, and this is how it's going. So classified to me is, as much as it's hard to say, but it's true, and it's probably true for a lot of you. The classified figures to me are what in 1985 Ara was in my head. And when me and my cousin went and played Big Joe's, we had sidearms, and we had our knives come off, and all the stuff that was on the character that was molded in, like, it came off, and we played. And when we played Little Joe's with the figures, you had to imagine that. You had to imagine somebody drawing their pistol or pulling a knife out of the sheath or whatever. And Classified give us that. Give us all the stuff that we wished and hoped a Raw could have been back in the day for me. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way. Now, I'm not in this video going to get into shit like distribution or the quality control or anything like that, because I love the line overall. There's been some missteps and some fumbles along the way, and I'm sure there'll be more, but they're pretty much nailing it. I don't overall, they're knocking it out of the park, and I'm here for it. I hope it keeps up. I hope I can keep affording to collect the damn things, because we're getting buried under an avalanche, but they're going to be out there at least. 2023, and we've got new awesome Joe figures that are what we always really wanted. It took me a while to get used to the 6-inch scale, but you can do a lot more with 6 inches, baby. That's right, they look great. So that's where I'm at with it. And I've actually, this is my, like I said, this is my pit. This is my Joe room. I'm rearranging stuff, trying to find places to display figures. I got stuff that I want to open, because I am an in-box and an out-of-box collector. I have a box collection, but I don't have everybody in that collection. So I like to open them. I do photography, not very well, but it's fun. Something else that I've never done before, and it's not as much fun with a raw, because they're not as posable. They don't have the articulation. They don't have the weapons. Not that I don't love them, I do, but I'm not going to take my 40-year-old plastic figures out that I've had since I was a kid and kept with me through 4 or 5 moves, and take them out like I did 40 years ago and break them. They mean too much to me now. Um, so I'm glad Classified are here. But anyway, I take mine out. I like to pose them and get them out. And as we'll see when I do Limelight videos, I will go more into that character and the detail. And I'm probably not going to do a real thorough comparison of a raw versus classified. I might get mine out if I have that figure. Most of mine are in pieces because the O-rings have snapped and I'm scared to fix them. But there are other people that do a much better job of showing side by side than I could ever do, just because they're better at this and they have a better setup. So I'm not really gonna go in depth in that. I'll probably show them and turn them around, but I'm not going in depth in that. But when I do the Limelight videos, we'll see kind of then versus now on that. So this has gone on way too long, and I knew it was going to, and that's why I've kind of put off making it, but I need to. So I hope you stuck around for the end of this, kind of see where I'm coming from. Um, like I said, I am cup half empty, sarcastic, but hey, we need more of that, right? I hope so. So I'd appreciate it if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, see what kind of crazy shit I come up with, because I like to make up sound effects and voices and all that stuff. I get bored. It's just me and the dog. So like, subscribe, tell your friends. I hope to see you back again. I will see you guys next time on 3 Star Draw. Peace.